The Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah, I know that the music business was way, way different than it is now. It's so different.
I don't know if those two things are related, but yeah, I'm sure the peace movement, it probably saw a lot of wild shit.
Well, he's a musician, right?
Yeah.
And the music business is what you survive in. And for example, Elvis, the way that his life ended, and the way that the music business was back then, it was throw drugs at the problem, throw sex and money at the problem, and I don't know that had he had modern management, or even if he was with somebody who like a handler, that would say, hey, it's probably not a good idea for you to say that. Nowadays we have people who are their sole jobs are to help keep us from stepping on it.
Right.
So, and I've got people around me. They used to be real busy with me, but fortunately, growing up, I've learned a lot of stuff that you can and can't say. So,
well, specifically, I mean, in this day and age with social media, it's so easy for someone to just tweet something really ridiculous without someone saying, hey, don't fucking say that. You're on Adderall. Sit down. Don't write that down. Don't say that. It's just back then. Do you think that the drug and alcohol thing is the same today in music? Or do you think it's less? Do you think it's just not promoted by what do you think the difference is between the influence of drugs and alcohol in the early days versus now?
Well, I think in the early days of the music business, first off, the drugs weren't as strong, and they didn't have, like for example, something as simple as herb. The marijuana that I used to smoke when I was a kid versus what's being manufactured and grown nowadays is way different. And I think that the stigmatism for people about smoking is less. And I think that there's a lot of other things that people use out on the road to cope with things that could be dealt with good management, good support system, and most importantly, having somebody who's going to tell you the truth. I'm a grown up. I'm a big boy. So when I have stuff happen in my career, and it could have been avoided, or somebody didn't tell me and I find out later, that sucks.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, when that stuff happens, they respond in a negative way with either self-sabotage or they medicate themselves. And I remember back when I was drinking, there was a thing someone said at one of those meetings, and I thought it was kind of clever. The guy said, I drank when my team won, and I drank when my team lost, and I drank when my team played, and I drank when my team was in the off season. And I thought, all right, well, that's about me. What team were we not rooting for anymore? So, but there's so many reasons why people make it or don't make it in the music business, and I think much like yourself, in our getting to know each other earlier this afternoon, you have to take care of yourself. You really, really do. And there's so many things in the music industry that the history, the people that you're working with. A lot of people don't want to say anything bad about somebody, but I mean, imagine how much better things would be if somebody really said, that he's a nice guy, but he stole from us, or this guy he's good at this, but he's terrible at that. Everybody's so afraid to offend anybody with stuff like that, but yet in other areas of life, offending people doesn't mean shit. So we've had some times where we've had some people on our crew and tours that we've been on. The last tour we were on, not my band, but another band, their bus drove right up to the Canadian border, and the driver got out and left them all sitting there. So
Why?
yeah, it's the music business.
Why did he do
Because
that?
he had a DUI or something like that, and you can't get up into Canada. So,
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
It's so convoluted, all this stuff. But see, like back in the day, back in the 60s or 70s, what I was talking about, different eras, different messes, different managers. Managers used to manage the mess. They don't manage the mess anymore. They don't want to tolerate that shit because there's always somebody around the corner that's ready to work harder than you. It's like that motivational thing that Arnold said a long time. Somebody's out there getting stronger, running farther, all that stuff. I love those motivational tapes.
Yeah, well, someone is out there doing it. And if you do fuck up and you want to just take Xanax all day and do coke and you don't write new music, someone's going to come along.
They are.
And unfortunately, everybody isn't that a part of like the whole rock and roll mystique? part of the whole mystique was the guy who did crazy drugs, was kind of half out of it, but would go on stage and be brilliant.
Sometimes, that's Keith Moon. That worked for Keith. But I think that's a player like Keith is so all over the place. He doesn't have a song with a pattern, so it's just go out there and just hit everything. I know of a lot of musicians that will drink when they play. I know a lot that don't. I don't know very many anymore that do drugs. That's just something that's been kind of
phased out.
Yeah,
just because of the impact it has on your body.
Well, not only that, but the things that it makes the people do and the kind of people that are around that. I think that, like I was saying, herb is less of a stigmatism, so people are a little bit more open with that. But, as far as coming backstage and it's smelling like, somebody's back there burning chemicals or something like that, or, people falling out in the hallway from heroin or tweaking around on meth or coke or something. We try and associate with people that are like-minded with us, the people that are about their careers and that really are into taking care of themselves. Two of the guys in Five Finger Death Punch do jiu-jitsu. They have a sensei out with them. We all are doing jiu-jitsu. When we were out with Trivium, the singer for that band does jiu-jitsu. So we try and hang out with bands that are really health-centric, that are really, really looking into, and not just from here down, but here up too.
When you were a kid and you first were hearing about bands and getting into bands, was that always a narrative? Was that something that was discussed a lot, that like a lot of bands did drugs?
I don't think it was, because it wasn't something we were preoccupied with. We were, at the time when I first started playing around by myself with other little small time outfits and stuff like that, and it never was really drugs per se. It would be like maybe get a 6-pack of beer and maybe smoke a joint or something. But it wasn't until Megadeth actually got going and we met Gar and some of the people in that circle where we started to experiment with other stuff, and we had a manager at the time who was very, very bad off, and he would try to always keep us loaded, and we ended up having to fire the guy because it was for our own health and our own safety. I mean, if I was a cheap bastard and didn't have any money, I would say this is great, you got it for free. But the thing was, the guy was keeping several members of the band sick.
Yeah, there's guys that do that. There are guys that do that. And there's guys that'll do that just to sort of corral you and keep control of you. I've seen managers do that.
The Brian Wilson story was a great story too.
What happened with Brian Wilson?
The movie that he had about the doctor that he had some psychiatrist that kept him all whacked out. I watched the movie that Paul Garganimus or whatever his name is, the one guy from Billions, was the doctor, and I can't remember who played Brian Wilson, but it was a great movie.
What is it called?
It was the Brian Wilson story, I guess. I don't know.
I haven't seen that one yet.
But John Cusack played it, and I know John Cusack's practitioner too. He'd trained over with Sensei Benny at the Jet Center too.
Yeah, I remember he used him in one of his movies. There it is, Love and Mercy. That's it.
Giamatti.
Paul Giamatti.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the guy from the Howard Stern movie too. Now, that guy's awesome. Yeah, that's that whole thing with psychiatrists or doctors or whether it's a manager or someone that you have that can get you drugs and that keeps you on them. That's a long-standing story. That's been going on a long time, especially like with really talented people. A lot of times that person, they can benefit financially from controlling them. So they get a hold of that. They go, look, I'm just going to babysit you, keep you on drugs, and then suck money out of you. And then there's a lot of those guys that wind up keeping these incompetent managers for years longer than they should because the guy gets them drugs too.
Right.
Because the guy gets them girls, he gets them drugs, he sets up parties, he does all the stuff that doesn't help the band and doesn't help their music, but it helps keep him around.
In the picture.
Yeah. Those guys are real. I've met those guys in comedy too. They exist. And it's you know, it's always been a long-standing story in comedy. You know, with Sam Kinison was into coke, and Richard Pryor famously had a problem. But you only hear about those kind of people when they make the news. You know, when something happened. So I was always wondering, like back in your day when you first started, like was that a trope? Was that something that was discussed a lot with rock stars?
To not be in the news.
No, the drug thing, because it seems like so many guys from your era were doing drugs.
Yeah, they were. Well, I'll give you a scenario. When we got signed to Capitol, we went up into the tower. We went into one of the little rooms there, and the guy slid his desk open, and there were lines everywhere. So, yeah, they gave us a box of Nike shoes and all the blow you could eat.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
When I was a kid and when I worked at a comedy club, they offered me coke or money, or a combination of both. You get paid in cash or coke. I was like, this is crazy.
I heard about a band with a frontman that I really respected that wanted to be paid in crack, and I just thought, you know what, I've lost all respect for you now.
Well, maybe he knew he could get it at a good price and sell it on the road.
Yeah, you never know.
It's hard to get good crack. Yeah, there's a lot of people that get like really lost on drugs. But that's why I'm always happy to speak with a person like yourself that's, you know, had your problems and put them aside and bounced back. Yeah. And, you know, got healthy and is open about it. You know, I think it's so important for guys to hear. And also that it's a trap too. That you get sucked up into that trap. You can be a good person, a solid person who's got confidence, you can accomplish things, but you can get still sucked in that trap.
Yeah, you can.